So Labor Day is right around the corner. Midterms about 10 weeks away right now. And one of the very closely watched races is the race for the Georgia Senate seat. And it's being viewed in some ways as a test of former President Trump's influence over his party, the GOP, and as a potential proving ground, perhaps, for Senator Raphael Warnock, who some Democrat strategists believe if he can win in Georgia, that he might be in that pool of people that would be considered in a presidential race. There's a look. This is a fairly tight race in this poll. It's about 4 points apart right now, and there's a long way to go here in election time clocks. Fox views this race as a toss-up, as you see those numbers there. The challenger to the sitting Senator Warnock is Republican Herschel Walker, and he joins me now. We have invited Senator Warnock to give him equal time. We have not heard back to set a date for that, but that invitation is open as well. Mr. Walker, welcome. Always good to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for having me on, and call me Herschel.
All right, Herschel. So, I want to ask you about the comment that we just played from President Biden, where he said that MAGA followers belong to this scary arm of the Republican Party and that he sees them as semi-fascist. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is the same as I've been saying with Senator Warnock. They continue to bring divisive. They want to divide. They want to divide the people, even though they say they're trying to bring people together. But you can't bring people together by calling them names. And that seemed to be what Joe Biden and Senator Warnock continue to do, is to call people names. You see what they called me on MSNBC, and he didn't check them on that. So one of the things I think the people need to realize that those people are not what they say that they are. Senator Warnock, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I think right now it's time for him to be exposed.
So, one of the things that has been talked about in this race is whether or not you are a strong enough candidate for this race. And this is from Senator Mitch McConnell, and a comment he made the other day, and I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Watch this.
There's probably a greater likelihood the House flips than the Senate. Senate races are just different. They're statewide. Candidate quality has a lot to do with the outcome.
What was your personal reaction to that comment, Herschel?
Well, my reaction to that is I didn't hear my name in that comment, and at the most, the thing that people need to realize is I didn't get in this race because of Washington, D.C. I got in this race because of people of Georgia. I saw that my family was hurting, and I saw that Senator Raphael Warnock was part of that. He was bringing things that the people of Georgia do not like. They don't want high gas prices. They don't want high groceries. They're sick and tired of the crime on the street, that they need someone in Washington that's going to put a change to it, and that's Herschel Walker. So I decided to run. I'm an outsider. I'm not a politician. I don't look like one. I don't talk like one. I don't act like one, because I'm not beholden to anyone. And I think that's what the people see. That's the reason the race right now is virtually tied, because they see me get out and I'm working for the people. He seemed to be working for Joe Biden.
Well, you have a huge following in Georgia, where you're from, and people followed your football career so closely there and embraced you in a lot of ways. One of the things that, from your past, during a really difficult time in your life, suggestions, abuse allegations from your former wife and from a few other women out there. So you had to have known that you were going to see the kind of ads that are out there right now. Do you wish that you hadn't run given this, or what's your reaction? And what do you say to people who watch these ads and have a question about you now?
Well, I don't think they have a question about me. One thing you can see that I'm very transparent. I've been very transparent. People know that I've been knocked down many times, but I've gotten up. My ex-wife and I, we're the best of friends with her husband and my wife. We have done a lot of things together, and I did that to help people, because you can be walking around wounded mentally. But one of the things I want you to know is, as long as you seek help, there's people out there that can help you. But people want to demonize that. I'm going to be a champion for mental health. I will always be a champion for mental health, and that's the way I did it. But people see where I'm at today. Where I'm at today is I'm here to help people. I'm here to help Georgians, because Georgians need someone to go to Washington to represent them honestly, not to be someone that say this and do something different. Senator Warnock went to Washington, forgot about the people of Georgia. Well, I'm for the Georgia people, and I'm going to fight for the Georgia people as he fight for the elite in Washington and he fight for Joe Biden.
Yeah, when we covered the Georgia runoff race, the president was there with Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, supporting both of them. That didn't work out. The GOP lost the control of the Senate. Obviously, you're in one of the most important races for your party in this country. How are you going to close that gap?
Well, I'm going to pull that out as getting around, listening to what the people got to say. I've invited Senator Warnock to a debate, which he's hiding behind the media. He's hiding behind his Twitter account because he don't want the people to see the contrast between himself and myself. I believe in lower taxes. He believes in higher taxes. He believes in putting men in women's sports. Well, I don't. Right now, he believes in people paying someone else's debt. Well, I don't. Well, the people need to see the contrast between the two of us, and he need to quit hiding and come out and let the people see that there's a difference between Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker.
Well, we would love to see that debate, and we'd be happy to host that debate for the two of you. And as I said, we've got an open invitation for him to come here and tell his side as well. Herschel Walker, thank you very much. Good to have you with us today, sir. We'll be following your race closely.
Hey, thank you. And I want to encourage everyone to go to teamherschel.com and whatever you can do to help to put me in that seat to represent Georgia and to represent America, because I'm going to fight for us all and bring us together.
All right. Herschel Walker, thank you very much, sir. Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.